The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Air Force Research Laboratory is partnering with Google Cloud using AI to accelerate defense research for air, space, and cyberspace forces. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. I was nearly trapped and unable to get to the program tonight. I was totally incapacitated. I was laying on my bed before I started here, and my cat Tomato rested on my stomach. I was trapped. There was almost nothing I could do. And then my girlfriend said it's dinner time and he ran away. Wow, what a great lineup we have planned for you tonight. I know, anticlimactic that story was. But here is what's coming up on this evening's show. On tonight's program, Dinner on Mars. What technology will actually feed those on the red planet? It's something that gets often overlooked when we talk about the race into space to Mars. How are people going to eat? How will food grow? How will people survive? That is what we'll cover in about 10 minutes' time. Then, in the Rocky Mountains in Canada, a fungus is killing bats. So conservation scientists are crawling into caves to figure out what is going on. What is going on? That we'll cover halfway through the hour. We've got a great lineup planned for you. Tony 5 is about to be here to cover some ridiculous onion-based news. That'll all make sense in a second. So let's dive into the program, shall we?
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Most shows deliver serious news that you can use. As a point of differentiation, we give you news you can't use. The Last Show, with David Cooper and special foreign correspondent, Tony 5.
And in headlines involving too many onions unsuspectedly sent to people, we get a woman in China who ordered 1,000 kilograms of onions to her ex-boyfriend with a note that read, "I cried for 3 days. Now it's your turn." To discuss, our foreign onion expert, Tony 5 from London, England, joins to report on this important story that you need to know about. Tony, welcome to the show.
1,000 kilograms. That's a ton of onions.
It's literally a ton, but it's also figuratively a ton. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't. You're very good. I like the way you use figuratively. I only ever use that in the term of skaters.
No, that's something else entirely. The woman whose name is Zhao, she found out that the boyfriend was cheating on her.
Okay.
After snooping on the phone, which is not something you should do. It's kind of this like, you're in the red for snooping, you're invading the privacy, but then the boyfriend's in the red for cheating. It's just a race to the bottom. But I guess,
correct.
Does it excuse the snooping when you find something that you shouldn't have found kind of thing?
David, as we always say, race to the bottom is the motto of this show. So we should talk about this, my friend. But I mean, yeah, I feel the same way. For you to go through somebody's phone, you're kind of breaking that trust and that sanctity. But then by also finding him cheating on her, That's like double, it's difficult. But the onion thing, good on her.
Well, she says she cried and was miserable for days upon days. She's quoted as saying to the media, he continued to enjoy life without a trace of sadness or remorse. So she wanted to give him tears, hence the onions. Because I don't know if you know this, Tony, but when you cut into onions, they release some chemicals and it causes your eyes to water.
Is that because you cut into your finger?
No. It's the onion chemicals. I think they're called lacrimators. And now you've learned something. This show has met the bar for educational content, so we can continue to be on the air.
I remember a girl that had that problem. She always used to lacrimate. She has to wear a thicker jumper.
It's something else entirely.
Okay.
But the boyfriend, I guess, taking it in stride, resold the onions for about...
I was going to say, what did he do with all the onions?
He was like, well, I got 1,000 kilos of onions. I may as well resell them. He made a few $100.
I mean, there's a hot dog vendor out there that's loving life, right?
There is.
I love that. We should have a topic for that on the show one day. Like, what's the most pettiest form of revenge you've ever done? I love hearing stuff like that.
Oh, petty revenge. Wow.
Like I've heard them, like, you've got the common ones where people put like dog poop and put it through the letterbox, or, cutting up their clothes. Those are kind of the standard ones. But this lady from China, she's gone a different level. And I love that the thoughtfulness, the creativeness, and it's not malicious. When you think about it, what has she done? She's just sent him some vegetables, right? It's just a ton of vegetables. He
said he needed to take 50 trips to the market to be able to sell the onions for a couple $100. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like the nicest gift you can give someone. There is a sense of irony here, though, probably.
And it's kind of weird because maybe he needs a market license. Maybe she could tell the local community that he's illegally selling onions on the black market. And that's how she gets him.
And he does, 25 to life for illegal onion dealing?
I'm telling you, China, you just don't know. They could have Big Onion getting onto him.
And they were red onions. Is there some significance there? I don't think so.
Well, communism, babe. Communism.
Oh, wow. That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
See, foreign correspondent, sometimes I do. You know what they say, David? A clock is right 3 times a day.
That is not what they say. They say even a broken clock is broken and should be thrown away because it's garbage. Favorite kind of onion, Tony? I feel like I really only know of 4, maybe 5 kinds of onions. What's your favorite kind?
A scallion, my friend, a scallion.
Not an onion. It's an allium. It's in the family of onions, but like a round thing, like a red onion, a white onion, a Spanish or yellow onion, and then like those sweet yellow onions. I think they're called Hawaiian.
What about spring onion? Is spring onions an onion?
No, that's like the root. That's when they're harvested early or something. I mean like the round, dry thing, like classic onion. Basically, it's 3 kinds: red, yellow or Spanish, and white. Favorite.
Right, I don't like the Spanish, so let's just go for white onions.
Spanish onion is my favorite because it's best used for cooking, and I cook a lot.
Do you sweat your onions?
Yeah, of course, you got to for a lot of things.
Okay. Sweating onions, again, it seems like you're sort of accusing them of a murder, and you're trying to just annoy them. But, what's your favorite onion-based dish, my friend?
Oh, wow, great question. I like using it as a base for a lot of things, like sauces. I suppose, you know what? I make a really good ragu, which is like a tomato sauce.
Okay.
With meat, onion, carrots, celery. I put a little anchovy in there as a secret ingredient.
Oh, disgusting.
See, you don't know that you actually like anchovies. Everybody actually likes anchovies. They just don't know it because a lot of foods... Do you like Caesar salad dressing?
Yeah, but it doesn't have anchovies in it, the ones in the UK.
Yes, it does.
Does it?
Of course it does.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what makes it so good.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it's a little fish with a bone in it.
No, the bones are in there, but they're so thin and brittle, you can just eat them whole. Themselves are very fishy and strong in flavor, but if you add 1 anchovy to a wider dish, like a sauce, it just gives it this wonderful savory taste, and you wouldn't even know that there was anchovy in there. I bet you there's some Italian food, or as you Brits say, Italian food, that has anchovies in it that you like and you don't realize.
So is anchovy like an umami flavor?
Exactly. It's an umami booster. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. I remember when my umami took me shopping once. It was such a great day.
That's just your mommy.
Yeah, but it's my mummy, not your umami.
No, that's...
It was good time. I mean, this segment has been very onion heavy.
It has. It's really been our onion content. We're really diverging from our wheelhouse, which is bird attack-based content. If you listen to the back catalog of our podcast of the show, which you can find at lastshow.pizza, that's www.lastshow.pizza, not .com, you'll find Tony often reports on bird attacks. Not today, though. Onions.
And David, as you know, pizzas sometimes do have onions on them.
They do.
Or birds.
Birds.
Chicken.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I bring it all together, my friend. I really do.
This has been news you can't use. When we come back, we will take your calls at 1-888-505-6644. Give Tony a call and tell him why on earth you listen to whatever this show is.
I'd love that. I still don't believe people listen, but it's wonderful that they do.
After the break, how will humanity grow food and feed itself on Mars? The big question we will answer in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
What will humans eat on Mars? And what does it tell us about food here on Earth? Well, today's guest helped write a book, Dinner on Mars, a wild and fascinating look at how space farming could transform the way we grow, eat, and survive in the future, not only on the red planet, but also here back on Earth. Her name is Dr. Lenore Newman. She's the director of the Food and Agriculture Institute at the University of the Fraser Valley. Lenore, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here.
Why Mars? Why Mars such a powerful lens from reimagining how we might farm here on Earth?
Well, it turns out it's a really interesting challenge. And to date, when we go to space, we hand wave it away. We take takeout from Earth. So if we go to the moon, we just pack an extra big sack lunch and head up there. If we go up to the space station, we just take snacks. But if we go to Mars, that's years. And if we set up a colony there or a settlement, that's forever. Where does the food come from? And it's a problem that is really hard to solve. And it became a bit of a passion because every time we watched a space movie, the food would just be waved away. Usually there'd be like 1 or 2 plants in a corner, and that's the kitchen. And I'm like, that's not going to cut it. These guys are going to starve.
And we got to bring up like a sustainable little biodome with Earth soil. I mean, that's my dumb idea. I'm sure there's a smarter one. But what will astronauts on Mars eat, and how will we make sure it's nutritious and not just dried, fast food, basically?
Exactly. And the problem is you can't take a little piece of Earth with you because it costs too much to get it into orbit and then take it to Mars. And so no soil brought from Earth, and also no animals brought from Earth because they hate space. They just hate it. And there's great video of cats in space. They're not happy. And it kind of transfers across food system. So what you have to do is build a food system from scratch using only what you have which is energy and lunar and Martian, in this case, regolith. And so that Martian soil, though, is poisonous. It's full of perchlorates and it would kill you. So if Matt Damon had really eaten potatoes right out of the dirt on Mars like he did in The Martian, he would die.
Wait, he wasn't really up there? That wasn't a documentary?
Wasn't a documentary. Can you believe it?
I can.
I mean, we should have known when he jumped from one space vehicle to the other. But yeah, the potatoes would be toxic. So what you do is you take something that doesn't care about space, which is cyanobacteria. So blue-green algae, you use the blue-green algae, which is poisonous, ironically, to humans, and it will happily eat the Martian soil and create soil that we can then use. So that's your basis. You start with the algae in the soil. You build soil that you can use. You do hydroponics for all your vegetables. You have some soil now. Well, you can use that to grow some potatoes, but you can also feed the leftover cyanobacteria after it's done to yeast and bacteria to make protein. And then you're off to the races. Then you can have Martian cheese, Martian meat, but the base is genetically altered yeast that produces proteins and fats.
It seems like we're in a future here on Earth where lab-grown meat is just around the corner. I don't know when it'll be, if it'll be, but it seems likely. Is that something we would want on Mars?
It is true, and we would. And I've been around that corner, and I've actually tried some of those products. I've actually eaten salmon grown in a vat and meatballs made with pork that was created by bacteria and yeast. And yeah, it works. And right now, it's a little too expensive to find in your corner grocery store. But by the time we're on Mars, which realistically is going to be a little while, those technologies will be ready, and they will be used on Earth too. Although what I like to tell people, it's kind of like as an addition to the current food system. The problem we're faced on Earth is we can't produce enough protein for everyone without literally farming the entire surface of the Earth. So no more Amazon, no more boreal forest. It would all be cows. So instead, cow in a bottle.
How can looking at Mars and how we might grow food there have cause us to look back at Earth with a more critical lens and how we get food here?
Well, the first thing, this is a really hard problem, so we should really not screw up the Earth so badly that we have to go to Mars. Because Earth is easy because it's all here. I mean, you get this huge dividend from having a functional, intact biosphere and ecosystem.
For now.
We literally, for now, but we literally can walk outside and there's free food all over the place. I don't know how we made it so complicated that we're wrecking that, but on Mars, you've got nothing. And it should make us feel a little more appreciative of what we have here.
You mentioned cheese, yeast. What sort of products could we get from bacteria on Mars? That seems a little odd to me. I was sort of just picturing plants and maybe lab-grown meat.
Yeah, well, bacteria are used to they're used like little mini labs, and that happens already. So example, if you're on insulin, that insulin comes from bacteria that's been engineered to produce insulin. Same with, we can actually get some dairy protein that way too. And so there's some non-animal dairy on the market in the US where the dairy came from yeast and bacteria that create the proteins at least, and very soon the fat. And what it is yeast and bacteria are they're little labs. And usually they produce alcohol, and nothing wrong with that. We're probably going to do that on Mars too, to be honest.
Yeah, what else is there going to be to do out there?
Yeah, we're going to be a little bored, so we'll definitely have some normal yeast, but we'll also have some yeast that's been, through genomics, a few genes have been tweaked to produce other things. And it works with bacteria and fungus as well.
Will we see like huge bases of farming? Like what will the technology look like? Like if I went to Mars, let's say, in however many years, what am I going to see? Is it going to be covered in farms? Is it just going to be little domes next to bases?
Well, we'll probably have little domes, maybe even caves, because we're trying to hide the food from the radiation. And Mars isn't very friendly for radiation because there's no electromagnetic field that, like we have on Earth, that's keeping us free from all that radiation from space. And so the one thing we never really could figure out.
Wait, the one challenge? Come on.
Well, okay, there's a few little challenges, but some of them aren't in our area. Grains, carbohydrates. If you want spaghetti on Mars, it's actually hard because grain farming on Earth works wonderfully. It's very advanced, very efficient, but what you need is a lot of land. What we don't have on Mars is a lot of land. So I am not entirely sure how we would grow wheat on Mars. So we might be eating a lot of potato bread. I don't know. It's about the best we could come up with.
Pasta's pretty much my favorite food. I'm not giving it up. I'm not going, okay? I'm not going.
See, you're not going. Probably, I like pasta too, so I'm with you.
Lenore, when do you think we'll see a sustainable, or at least the beginnings of a sustainable farmed community on Mars? Like 5 years, 50 years, 500 years?
Well, we have to survive first. So I think that's our big challenge is we've hit a bit of a technology bottleneck right now where we have technologies that have serious impact on the planet, and we don't have the technology and the social wherewithal to handle that. So we are rapidly putting ourselves into a situation where we could collapse as a civilization. That is bad. If we can turn that around, start shrinking the amount of land we're using to support everyone on Earth, restore natural ecosystems, I mean, the technology is getting closer, but it's probably still 20 years out, 30 years out before it would make any sense to try. Now, I could be wrong. We could see a major power decide to do a bit of a sprint like they did with the moon. I mean, they went to the moon with analog technology just because they decided that was how they're going to spend 5 to 10% of GDP for a few years. We could do that with Mars 10 years, maybe. I think 50 is maybe more realistic. So, don't pack your bag.
Well, if we can have spaghetti there, I might see you in 50 years. Lenore, thanks for talking to me today about this.
Lovely. Glad to do it.
Dr. Lenore Newman is the director of the Food and Agriculture Institute at the University of the Fraser Valley. Check out her book. She's one of the authors of Dinner on Mars. It's available wherever books are sold. All right, why are bats in the Canadian Rockies dying from fungus? Answers up next. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
If you went on a road trip and you didn't stop for a Big Mac or drop a crispy fry between the car seats or use your McDonald's bag as a placemat, then that wasn't a road trip. It was just a really long drive. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's.
We're broadcasting relationship truths and scientific discoveries with a comedian's touch. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Treacherous caves, deadly fungus, spooky, scary bats. These are all part of the strange tale of Catamine Cave, a hidden world in the Canadian Rockies where hundreds of bats hibernate while bat conservation scientist Lisa Wilkinson crawls through in the dark to count them, to help them survive against a lethal agent called white nose syndrome, and that takes them in their sleep. Lisa, welcome in. I'm really excited to talk bats with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Paint us a picture of what it's like to step in to Catamine Cave, a place, well, I would say infested, but you probably wouldn't use that word because you like bats. What do you see, smell, what do you feel when you enter a really cavernous cave filled with bats?
Well, it's dark, it's damp. The cave is actually quite large, so for much of the cave you're able to stand up. There are some crawling and climbing areas, and so you're not that close to the bat. So it's not as though you walk in and you're face to face with a wall of bats hanging down. They're kind of sporadically in various parts of the cave, so it doesn't feel like you're being overwhelmed by bats. And they're silent. They're not moving. They're hibernating, and they just look like they're dead because they're not moving at all, either in singles or little clumps. And I guess it just smells damp. There are wood rats actually in the very front of the cave, so that has a nice earthy smell when you first go into the cave.
Why have one rodent when you can have two?
Well, bats aren't rodents.
They're not?
No.
Oh my goodness. Look, I should have done a simple, what is a bat Google before we started this interview. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, that's okay. They're not, they're not like mice. They're not flying mice. They're their own group. They're the most abundant group of mammals next to rodents. Yeah.
Why do they pick Catamine Cave as their winter, I want to say Airbnb? What makes it such prime real estate for them to hang out in there?
That's a really good question. And there probably isn't a lot of prime real estate for bats to hibernate. They need places that are quite cold. Catamine's about 3 degrees. and it has to stay constant. So an animal that goes into hibernation, it lowers its body temperature. If the outside temperature starts going up, it's going to wake up, and you don't want that. You don't want it to use up its energy. And we know that relative humidity is also really important to bats, otherwise they dry out. They could be in hibernation for 6 months. So that right combination of a cool, stable temperature, lots of humidity, not going below zero, they can't freeze. So there probably aren't a lot of places that tick all the boxes for what they need.
Why do you need to go? Why can't you send a drone or a robot? Is the human touch essential here, or do you just love bats so much that you don't want to tell anyone that robots could do it?
Yeah, I don't think we could send in a drone or a robot because it's pitch black.
Oh.
And they're actually not that easy to see. And again, I mentioned there's a little bit of climbing and clambering, so I think you need a human, and it's actually quite fun too. We only do it once a year because we want to minimize disturbance, obviously. We have been doing this for a number of years. They seem quite fine with us very quietly going in and counting them, but it does need the human touch. And it's a pretty special experience. Not for everybody, but makes for a good day.
White nose syndrome, it sounds adorable. Like maybe a clown that decided to wear a white nose instead of a red nose. It is not adorable. It kills millions of bats. This is a serious problem. For those who don't know, why is it so deadly, and why does it just affect hibernating bats?
That's a really good question too, and it's because it's caused by a fungus that, kind of like the bats, it likes cool, dark places, so it grows in caves and places where bats hibernate. And it originally was found in the state of New York in a cave about 0607. And we think someone from Europe had brought it over on their gear, some spores. And so our bat had no experience with it. What happens is that the fungus begins to grow in the cave. Eventually, after a few years, it proliferates. It starts to grow on the bats, and then it'll penetrate their tissues, like their wings or their nose. And if it's really bad, you get the white fungus. And basically, it causes the bats to wake up from hibernation. So they wake up in the middle of winter, they're using that stored fat, but there are no bugs to eat. So they starve to death, which is really tragic. So it's more that they're just irritated once this fungal load reaches a certain threshold, and then there's nothing for them to eat.
So their immune system kind of wakes them up, being like, hey, you got to fight this fungus. And by waking them up, they're then...
Yeah, and that's really good point, because their immune system is suppressed when they're in hibernation. So if the fungus was on them and it wasn't hibernating time, they'd probably be able to repel it fairly easily. But that's not the case when they're hibernating. So
they kind of do have resistance to this fungus. Everything that their body is doing right, it's waking them up. But then by waking up in these conditions, they just starve to death.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, this is brutal. Because what could possibly help here? Is this a serious concern for conservation? No,
it really is. And as you mentioned at the start, millions of bats have died. We know they play a really important role in our ecosystem because they consume a lot of insects and bugs, including farm and forest pests, mosquitoes. Things that play a really big service to humans as well as the ecosystem. There's lots of research going into it with trying to vaccinate, or you have to be careful about trying to destroy a fungus inside a cave because there's other things living in caves too. And it's quite a complex situation. We know UV light, for example, can kill it. But how do you get UV light in all these nooks and crannies of all these caves? And so there's little solutions that are being tried, small scale. But the biggest thing we can do for the bats is just to give them the best chance at being healthy and resilient, and then being able to recover. So habitat for bats, big old trees, wetlands where they can, catch lots of bugs, and having nice, safe hibernation sites where female bats roost in the summer. Try to make sure they've got lots of those roosting spots. So the ones that are able to survive and reproduce will bring more into the population. And unfortunately, bats only have one pup per year. So you can imagine once the population gets decimated, it takes a really long time for it to rebound. So people can help quite a bit. It's easy to look stuff up on how to help bats, and just providing that habitat and not being scared of them.
I mean, they're flying. They're scary, man. I don't know what to say. I respect them. I would never hurt them. I'm glad we're conserving them, but I can't help my response, you know?
It's quite natural.
I'm scared of spiders too.
Yeah. No, it's natural. I would say I've seen people's responses change, probably because we're learning how important they are and that they're imperiled. And people may not like them, but they appreciate them. But, we don't understand them because they come out at dark. We don't see them. They're small. They don't get caught in your hair. That's a myth.
We can't be sure that they're a vampire in bat form like Dracula.
Exactly. Yeah, we're quite confident that they don't turn into vampires.
Katamin is a wild place, the cave. What's the most unexpected thing you've seen or heard of happening in that particular cave?
I actually ran into someone who I call sort of an old timer from the community recently, and he described having to get someone out who had broken a leg in the cave.
Oh.
Decades ago, which would have, again, if you can imagine this cave with this labyrinth, twisty, turning, big rocks, climbing, and having to try to splint a leg and carry them out. And then you've got a few kilometers down a mountain.
Plot twist, was it James Franco? Remember that movie where he was trapped in the rock?
No.
Is there one thing you want people to know about the conservation of these bats or this fungus that is causing them a great concern?
Yeah, just support your bats. Bats need help. They're so useful. Let them live, learn to live with them and help them as much as you can because we need them too.
Lisa, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Lisa Wilkinson is a senior species at risk biologist with the Alberta government. When we come back, perhaps the biggest story in pop culture to date, the company Whirlpool has released ways to correctly load your dishwasher. So when we come back from the break, a highbrow debate on this important topic that may well impact you.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Hey business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
And we are back to settle the debate that has caused humans to fight over the last 2,000 millennia. There is no single topic that has caused more wars, more destruction than disagreements about how to load your dishwasher. It's pop cultured like fungus. We are joined by media personality and co-host on the Jan Arden Podcast, Caitlin Green. Caitlin, welcome back.
Media personality, co-host on Jan Arden Podcast / reformed chaotic dishwasher loader.
Oh, godness. I'm like, I can't say God on the radio. When you start censoring yourself for profanity, you go too far. Like I say, gosh darn.
I do that too.
And it ruins everything. But chaotic dishwasher loader, just describe for me the scene in your dishwasher before we start here.
So I've begun working on this since I recently got a new dishwasher, and I like this one and I take it more seriously. So I think I've been nicer to it. But prior to this, it was really anything goes. I'll stack willy-nilly. I will pile things on top of each other. I won't load back to front. It's just whatever happens in there is none of my business. I close that door, and when I open it, the dishes are clean.
And your husband hasn't divorced you yet?
He would sometimes gingerly walk in and redo the dishwasher.
Tetrising, that's the skill. Tetrising, let's give it a label.
Yes, he's very good at it. I'm not, but I'm trying to be better at it. The truth is, it's not like anyone ever shows you. This either bothers you right away or it doesn't. And it just never bothered me. It would only bother me if the dishes weren't clean. If the dishes weren't clean, I would self-correct. But somehow, in my insane, unhinged way of just throwing things in the dishwasher and closing the door, they always got clean. So I was like, I'm not gonna fix it. It ain't broke.
I see that argument and I can't let it influence me. Even though if you are chaotic and it comes out clean, I can't emotionally do it. My mom is so nuts when it comes to this stuff. Like if I'm visiting their house and I eat something and I put the dishes in the dishwasher, like rinse cleaned, like there might be a speck, she will literally take it out of the dishwasher, scrub it with dish soap and a sponge until it's basically ready to be put back. She simply uses the dishwasher as what a sanitizer, I guess is what she uses it for, or just like a second washer. She is so nuts about this stuff. And she will get into screaming matches if you try to run that thing with any speck of dirt. I am not as bad as her, but I am influenced by her. I rinse clean everything before I put it in. And people say things like the grime actually attaches to the soap and works as an abrasive. So the more dirty bits in the dishwasher there are, the more clean your stuff gets.
Oh.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I cannot and will not buy that argument.
Well, the good people at Whirlpool, when they released this list of things that everyone's doing wrong when they're loading the dishwasher, one of the things that drew my attention was that they say don't pre-rinse and don't use soap and then put a dish in the dishwasher because the detergent that you use beforehand can mess things up.
Yeah, you got to rinse the dish soap off of the plate so that the dishwasher soap they can't commingle. I knew that.
Or hear me out, you just put them in.
I can't, I won't, I will not. When you put things in and so you got that little spinny thing in there, there's like a little arm that spins around on the top and usually in the middle and one on the bottom. I check to see that those can free spin, that I don't have like pots or pans with a handle sticking out blocking that thing. That's the one thing I do, because if that thing's not spinning, water isn't getting everywhere.
Yeah, so I have checked that now, and I also will now check to make sure that the pot I'm placing over it isn't angled fully down so that it's really only washing the inside of the one pot. Like I kind of want to create maximum spray ability now within the dishwasher. So I've come over to the dark side just because my husband has multiple times pointed out to me how wrong I'm doing it. And I do agree. Like I as in, I don't care. I know that I don't care, but I just feel like I keep getting the dishes clean anyways. It's hard to argue with myself on that.
But there's a little trap in your dishwasher that collects large, dissolved food bits. And that trap needs to be cleaned.
Yes, it does.
And is that your job or is that your husband's job? Because in my house, my girlfriend loads the thing willy-nilly, maybe not chaotically, but with lots of grime, leaves and who knows what in there, pieces of food. And then I got to clean that disgusting trap. And she's like, oh, I didn't even know about the trap. I'm like, of course, you would never clean it. Also, well, you can respond to that, but there's more. The trap. Do you clean the trap?
I do. I have cleaned it. It's not my sole thing, but I've cleaned it.
It's a shared responsibility, not in my home.
Yeah.
But the angle, those spinning, what do you even call them? Spinning helicopter? Jets. They need to come in contact with the dirty parts of your pots and plates and pans, right?
They do. And here's my next question. Do you use the sanitize and the heat dry setting?
I don't use sanitize because I find it ruins my mugs and stuff.
Yeah, it takes the surface off things.
Yeah. So like if it's just clear plates or white plates or just like basic stuff, pots and pans, yes. But my nice coffee mugs with the little things on them that I like, little cartoons, we have fun coffee mugs. Also, the lids of Tupperware, if you put them in the bottom shelf, they'll kind of melt and crack because it's too hot down there. Got to put them on the top shelf. But if you have it on sanitize, it'll melt your plastic lids.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of feelings, Caitlin. I'm having trouble getting them all out.
I didn't know that I had unlocked a trauma for you here, but I have. And that's fair because I think men do, I would guess, the lion's share of the correct dishwasher loading in most households. Because when I've just done a straw poll amongst my girlfriends, none of us really care. And we're all sort of the mind that whatever happens in the dishwasher is collectively none of our business so long as the dishes get clean. But the husbands are bothered by the fact that we don't care about this. And they enjoy the game of Tetris of getting it perfectly set up so that everything can have optimal cleanliness, which I respect.
And fit, like I dishwashers aren't huge. If I'm cooking more than one meal and not running it every meal, getting those 2 meals in there is kind of tough, or the dishes for them. Also, I'm not so into these like heteronormative gender norms, like the dude fixes everything and the woman buys the flowers or whatever. But in my household, if it breaks or stops functioning, it falls on me. And so her lackadaisical attitude on loading it, caring about it, not caring about the dirt trap, not caring about salting it, it's like, it falls on me. And that's annoying.
It creates work for you.
I don't like work.
So
in your house, like what's the split of traditionally gendered duties?
I would say that neither of us do anything. So we're very egalitarian in that we both like to use an app to help us find people to fix things around the house. Like neither of us are capable, I don't believe, of fixing an appliance. That's never happened for us. Cleaning stuff I can do and I enjoy doing. I'm a bit of a cleaning psycho. So when it comes to a deep clean of something like emptying the trap on the dishwasher, no problem for me. Cleaning out the washing machine, you know how it gets all gunky inside where you pour in the detergent, the laundry detergent?
Yeah, sure.
I will do that. I will clean out the dryer filters. I will clean out the fans. I will scrub walls. Like I go crazy when I get into cleaning hyperfocus. So I do all that stuff. And we have like a large balcony, but we don't have a backyard or yard work to do. So I think my husband does get off easy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. I guess paying someone to do it, like in New York, handymen cost $17 billion a minute.
Yeah.
So like, it's like anything in New York is like got this entry, even just to get a plumber over, it's like $500 just to walk in the door. And so like, I end up trying to fix stuff that maybe if I lived elsewhere, I would just, I don't know, call a handyman.
So could you plumb things if needed?
No, I don't do amateur plumbing or electric. I'm not that insane.
Okay.
I've thought about doing amateur electrical, but I've always called someone. Maybe someday.
You haven't gone to YouTube to try to do plumbing for your new
DIY
place?
surgery, DIY electrician, DIY plumber. There are certain things that should not be DIY.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's some handy dude out there being like, I can wire electrical sockets. I don't need an electrician. Like, dude, you're going to electrocute yourself. Caitlin Green, what a pleasure it was having you on the show.
As always.
I feel like we did a lot today.
Me too. We solved a lot of problems for the world.
Of all the times you've been on a radio show, this was definitely one of them. Caitlin Green, you can find her on the Jan Arden Podcast. Up next, the lost continent of Atlantis. We'll explore the unknown. Who lost it? What are the ancient accounts of Atlantis, and what are some likely places today where Atlantis could have been? Put on your mystery caps. We're talking to green aliens from Atlantis or something like that. Up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Summer's here, and Nordstrom has everything you need for your best dress season ever. From beach days and weddings to weekend getaways and your everyday wardrobe. Discover stylish options under $100 from tons of your favorite brands like Mango, Skims, Princess Polly, and Madewell. It's easy too with free shipping and free returns, in-store order pickup, and more. Shop today in stores, online at Nordstrom.com, or download the Nordstrom app.
This is your nightly dose of chaos, confession, and questionable life choices. The last show with David Cooper.
The lost continent of Atlantis. What's there? Little green men, fish. Does it even exist? We are here with Noah Cappe, a TV host. It's Noah versus the unknown versus David Cooper. I'm planning on arguing with you today, Noah. Welcome to the show.
David, you might be surprised. There may not be as big an argument here as you think. This is going to be a fun one. Nonetheless, we're going to break it down. Atlantis, one of the most famous mysteries.
This one holds a special place in my heart because as a kid, I daydreamed about it. I must have seen something on the History Channel or the Discovery Channel or something, but it was one of those like a lot of kids get obsessed with UFOs and aliens. I wanted to find Atlantis.
Yeah.
I don't know how I was going to do it. The only contact I'd have with the ocean was every Christmas when I got dragged to my grandparents' place in Florida. But I was going to find it, and I never did, and maybe tonight we will.
Listen, this is one of those, you nailed it. This is UFOs, this is aliens, this is all the unknown stuff, but on the ground. This is the feeling that it didn't just float around, that it came from space, that it was like here, that we're close to it, that we're a part of something.
As a kid, I played with Play-Doh. I ate it. It probably made me as stupid as I am today, that and the paint chips. But let's start with Play-Doh, and I'm not talking the stuff kids mold around with. I'm talking the philosopher, the philosopher Play-Doh.
Oh, wow.
Is his manuscripts the first source that we have?
I mean, what did you, I'm not listening to anything you said after you did that wacky little segue.
I mean, transitions, I'm the best in the biz. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Best in the biz. Well done. Play-Doh.
As far as I'm concerned, maybe he wasn't the first one to think about it, to see it, to know it, but his manuscripts are the first known written accounts of what Atlantis was.
This is a Quentin Tarantino movie moment where we can kind of like start the journey at the end of the story, because the truth of the matter is Plato, a distant relative of his Solon, and an Egyptian priest. These three characters are the only people in the history of this planet that talk about, address, or acknowledge anything about Atlantis. Okay. And all of it technically comes back to Plato. It's a he said situation.
Plato was known for his parables, though. He was known to describe fictitious things to teach lessons. Maybe that's what this was, but maybe that's what this wasn't. Maybe Atlantis really existed. What do the early accounts have to say about the Atlanteans?
Right. Well, see, the interesting thing is, as you're saying, is that Plato is obviously known for using a lot of storytelling and things to share his theories, his beliefs.
Metaphors.
Yeah, exactly. Solon was much more of a traditional kind of like structured thinker. It doesn't really have any track record of sharing, wacky stories, things, whatever. Was more into like mathematics, things, whatever. Solon apparently, around 600 BC goes to Egypt and meets with a priest who tells him about a civilization that existed and was lost in a day and a night, like swallowed by water 9,000 years ago. So the interesting part is 9,000 years from 600 BC is floating around 9,600 BC, which is right in the tail end window of the Younger Dryas impact, which is the big event that when I'm on the show with you, we often talk about, because a lot of sites like Göbekli Tepe and things that happened around that time seem to be this reset button on the planet, that there was a reset button event that wiped out anything that was here before. So that is interesting. That time frame does kind of fall into this unique thing, but we have no documentation from the Egyptians anywhere. There's apparently a temple that has hieroglyphs that talk about Atlantis, but guess what? That temple got smashed and buried under the Nile, and we can't find whatever. This is one of those where there's a whole bunch of fun evidence to prove it today, but if you go back to the original moment, I don't know.
Well, it could be a story about flying too close to the sun, like Icarus. The Sodomites were having too much fun. God punished them. Plato said the gods sank Atlantis for being too arrogant, which is honestly relatable.
Yeah.
I tend to think this is a parable, but let's talk about potential sites for it, because there are some quote-unquote archaeological pieces of evidence. They're obviously not strong. They're obviously not widely believed, but they're fun to think about.
Yeah, I mean, in Plato's accounts, and again, this is one of those where people think, glowing green stones and flying crafts and all this stuff about Atlantis that we were told. None of that is true. The only thing that is mentioned in his writings, other than that there were mountains full of riches, that there was water that exited to the south, that it was circles of land and water, the only thing was that it was a very intelligent civilization that had unbelievable archaeology, that their building was fantastic. But there's no mention of advanced technologies. We, as storytellers, have sprinkled that on over the years. So that's an important thing for people to realize. But two sites I think stand out to both of us. And what's on your list for locations?
The Eye of the Sahara.
Yeah, the reshot structure.
Which, all conspiracy theories, all unknown antiquity theories, all things aside, just this natural structure, the Eye of Sahara. If you don't know what it is, just Google it because it looks amazing from satellite view.
If you said to AI, create an image on Earth that would instantly convince someone that Atlantis was real, the reshot structure is it. It literally looks like Atlantis. It is a circle with rings around it. It is in an area of the Sahara that in 9,000, 10,000 BC was a lush green part of the world. There is water, clear watermarks, massive flooding that you can see in the ground from satellite views. And it seems to depict that water did flow right through this structure, exited out of the south. There are mountains that are known for gold and all kinds of riches directly to the north of it, as Plato said. And those mountains are named after Atlas, Atlantis, so there are some interesting connections there.
There is one small minor point here, though. There's not any archaeological evidence of people or civilization there.
But this is the tough one, right? Because it's like, if you said to the average person, how long do you think it would take for somebody to land on this planet and not know that we today were here? Skyscrapers, buildings, all of that stuff. The answer isn't as long as you think. In 1,000 years, most of this would be gone. In 2,000 years, you would need technology to know what was here. So if you're talking about 11,000 years ago, you could argue that whatever was there is long gone.
And with this impact event or flooding event that you talk about, nature's reset, it's sort of like when nature takes a lorazepam.
Yeah.
The water could erode away. And as far as I know, there haven't been like major digs in the Eye of the Sahara.
It's an unbelievable difficult location, not only to access, but to live, to survive, to function, to get equipment, the funding. Nobody wants to put money into these kinds of things. It's an area that there's a particular YouTuber who's really pushing this angle. He's on Rogan all the time, kind of like, this is the spot, this is it. It's tough. There's no evidence other than these kind of references that Plato makes, which you can argue about other locations like the Minoans. There's an amazing site filled with a very advanced archaeology that has a backstory about a volcano that buried and ended the civilization, that this could be a place where Atlantis existed.
Well, that honestly fits with Plato's account of the gods punishing Atlantis for being too arrogant. When we come back, we'll find out what that other place is and why it might be good evidence for little green Atlanteans, or maybe just normal skin-colored Atlanteans. Noah Cappe is here. He's a TV host, and it's Noah Cappe versus the unknown. I bet you didn't know what I was going to do there.
It was unknown to me.
Yeah, long pause. Very creative. We'll be back with more Noah in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
With a Venmo debit card, you can Venmo more than just your friends. You can use your balance in so many ways. You can Venmo everything. Need gas? You can Venmo this. How about snacks? You can Venmo that. Your favorite band's merch? You can Venmo this. Or their next show? You can Venmo that. Visit venmo.me/debit to learn more.
You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo.
The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Card may be used everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Venmo purchase restrictions apply.
Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
We are discussing the ancient civilization of Atlantis. Could it have existed? What could it have looked like? I'm here with Noah Cappe. It's Noah versus the unknown.
A live reboot. It's so cool when we get to see you actually uploading the new software. That sounded wild.
Brainworkingprobably.com. It's my new website. Noah,
Yeah.
Let's go back to some of the written accounts of Atlantis and where those locations that were written about might have been.
Well, the Minoan Atlantis, the island of Crete. There's an amazing special on TV. A group of researchers believe wholeheartedly that this location is part of the original Atlantis. There are structures there. There are buildings. There are unbelievable archaeological accomplishments and an unbelievable astronomical component to these sites as well. Drainage, also things that just seemed unbelievably advanced for the time, for the people, the art, the structure when they 3D render it to what it was originally is very impressive. We're not talking a circular structure anymore, but we are talking an advanced civilization.
The real conspiracy here is when the Discovery Channel is struggling for ratings, new locations, new theories, new evidence emerges for Atlantis. Walk me through what that could have looked like.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we're all going off of these, this handful of written, who knows, from Plato, which we have to also remember that afterwards he writes again about the Atlanteans in a war with Athens, with Athenians. That there was this war that happened between whatever, the timeline, all of it. I mean, those are moments where it's like, okay, clearly that didn't happen. So now we do have a doorway into you acknowledging that there is a component to this that is
fiction,
conjecture that is, it's tough. To me, the Minoan component is just another example of an unbelievable advanced civilization that was able to do way more than we give people credit for. But I don't necessarily see the dot connecting to Atlantis.
Sunken places that were once above water, or even sites underwater that look like they could have been a civilization. Are there any pieces of evidence like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the writings talk about swallowed by water and a day and a night, that it was water that was the kind of the ending of Atlantis. There's theories about the Gates of Hercules that Plato wrote about, that it was just past that, which is kind of like an entrance coming in to the, if you're looking at the map, like the western side of Europe, a beautiful channel that leads in towards Greece. Those are the Pillars of Hercules. So there's theories in there. I mean, there's even the Bermuda, the Bimini Road, this underwater road that is clearly stones that have been laid out and goes for this unbelievable distance. And for it to be underwater now, you're going back again to a time frame where it had to have been thousands and thousands and additional thousands of years ago.
Where does the road lead? What's along the road?
I mean, we can't talk about that here. We can't do that right now. Where does the road lead? Where does it go? It fizzles out, but it's filled with, all of this stuff is so frustrating because it's always like, is this a natural stone? Does nature do this on its own? Or are these stones breaking and cutting in these kind of geometrical shapes and laying themselves on their own? The Bimini Road is, there was something there. Again, I don't know if it's Atlantis, but there's no way you can look at the images of that find in Bermuda and say it's a natural occurrence.
Well, if it's in Bermuda, it's got to be a mystery, right? It's got to be aliens. What was there something in the 90s where every time aliens came up, Bermuda, like I was scared to fly over the Bermuda Triangle in the 90s. And now it's like we don't talk about it much anymore.
I just remember their shorts being a really big deal.
That too. Let's get speculative here. What would the Atlanteans, what would they have looked like in our wildest dreams? Let's get way out there. Definitely not any basis in truth or fact or evidence, but like Plato was saying they were super advanced. What would an advanced civilization with unimaginable technology, at least thousands of years ago, look like?
Yeah. I mean, no mention of anything unusual. He doesn't mention anything one way or another. It doesn't say that they were white, black, or brown. Doesn't say that they were green, yellow, or red. It really doesn't address anything in that world in any way, shape, or form. So we're kind of going a little bit unknown. The theory is, if you believe that Atlantis is real and that the Atlanteans were a civilization, it's massive. It isn't just this one facility. They're talking about 10 kingdoms, bigger than the size of of Liberia and Asia. I mean, a massive, massive footprint on the planet where Atlantis was really kind of the heart of trade of the civilization. Apparently a massive, see, again, this is interesting, a massive monument to Poseidon in the heart of Atlantis. Now, Poseidon in 9,000 whatever, this is something that the Greeks created. So the Egyptians wouldn't have been able to say that it was Poseidon because they didn't know who that was. So is this, again, Plato massaging a story to make it fit in and make it more relatable to the people?
If Atlantis was in fact not real, and Plato was trying to teach us a lesson, something about human arrogance, maybe even a modern lesson about climate collapse and flooding, what would be the message there?
It didn't work. We didn't listen. I mean, as we're standing at the threshold of another climate event, listen, no matter what you believe in, we're dealing with a wacky time right now with the planet. So, unfortunately, I don't think we learn much, but how many seconds till midnight on the clock, on the doomsday clock?
Doomsday clock? It's 12:01 probably. I mean, it's already.
Well, good night, everybody.
This is purgatory. The world's already over. We're already in hell.
Thanks for finishing your ride with us.
It seems like Atlantis is part of every new age brand. Why do you think that is?
It's you said it at the beginning. I think it just holds a magical place in all of our hearts. There's that little kid, in all of us that still daydreams, that wishes, that thinks about that Indiana Jones discovery of the hidden tunnel that leads to a magical discovery and answers the big question of why are we here? What the heck is this? And what's going on?
And you're here to answer that. Why are we here? What the heck is this? And what is going on?
Family. Love.
Yeah, I agree.
Meaning's
what you make of it.
I think, 10,000 people at death's door say, no one says, I wish I worked harder. I wish I made more money. They say, I wish I spent more time with family. I wish I had cared less what people thought of me. It's the same thing. We all know it. It's just hard to live it day to day.
Well, they say you can't take it with you in the grave, but if you have someone you really trust, they'll put the money in the coffin for you.
I mean, the Egyptians certainly believed you could take it with them. It's just like, let's load up this room with as much stuff.
And they were right for many years, but eventually the tomb gets found and people, disrupt it.
Yeah.
Noah, what a pleasure it is to have you on the show. He said a minute before our time was over.
Listen, we are crossing off some big ones here. We've talked about the pyramids, the Sphinx, Göbekli Tepe, Atlantis. We've covered some great ones. If we do get a chance to come back, I think I think your audience is ready to dive a little deeper.
I think so too. What are we going to dive into?
Well, the Voynich manuscript is something that if you have time next week, I would love to come back and talk to you about. It's an unbelievable book written sometime in the 1400s that still today, even with AI, they can't decipher.
I'm looking forward to talking to you about that. What could it have? What could it contain? And why can't we decode language from a long time ago without using beep, boop, bop, bop computers?
You got 1 week to crack the code, buddy.
Questions will be questioned. Answers will be answered with Noah Cappe next week. Noah, what a pleasure it was to have you on the show.
That might be my new tagline.
Answers answered, questions questioned.
See you next time, buddy.
Brain still not working. Coming up after the break, an astronomer on the cosmic wonder of how heavier elements, the stuff that makes us up, was created in the explosion of stars. So if you're curious about how the elements inside of us, like carbon and oxygen and all that great stuff was created, because I am, stay with us because that's up next.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Keep listening to The Last Show with David Cooper, because the Alien Invasion can wait. The Last Show with David Cooper.
When we look out there in space, the cosmos, at the elements that exist, it's mostly hydrogen and helium. But then when we look here on Earth, we see heavier stuff, like carbon and metals and all kinds of stuff like that. How do we get from hydrogen and helium to heavier elements? It all happens when stars die, and we're here to discuss that with Dr. Alexander G. He's a cosmologist at the University of Chicago. Alex, welcome to the show.
Great, thanks so much for having me on.
Ever since I was little, I was always curious about how stars died because at a very young age, without any real technical detail, I learned about supernovas. Which are the coolest sounding thing to a kid. The biggest explosion you can imagine in space. Let's start there. Stars, they die in a variety of ways.
That's right. Maybe we should start with what does it mean for a star to live?
Let's talk about the meaning of life before we talk about the meaning of death.
Exactly, right? What is the meaning of life for a star? And so I guess, have you watched the Big Bang Theory?
I have. I'm not the biggest fan, but I have.
I'm not the biggest fan, but there is one quote from Sheldon Cooper about gravity that has made its way. Maybe you've heard, gravity, thou art a heartless bitch. So this is in the show, they're like trying to push something up some stairs. But it turns out that gravity is terrible. It's inexorable. It pulls everything together.
It sucks, if you will.
Yeah, it really does suck. And so what it means for a star to live is it is fighting against the force of gravity. So what gravity wants to do is take every star and crush it down into the smallest thing that it can. And what we're looking for a star to live is any force that basically pushes back against the force of gravity. So that force in all stars is something called nuclear fusion. We literally take the fundamental building blocks of everything. In our case, things like hydrogen, helium, the periodic table that you probably loathe from chemistry. You take all of those things together, you start smashing those things together, and it turns out that it makes heavier elements. And in that process, it actually also releases energy. So that's what's going on in our sun, which is our closest star.
It's sort of like an equilibrium. The power of those elements fusing together because gravity is pushing them, that power pushes out. So gravity pushes in, causes elements to get hot and fuse together, and then that heat and energy, and I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but my analogy or my metaphor is correct, pushes out, and it creates this equilibrium. And sometimes that equilibrium isn't there, and that's how we get black holes. But we're not talking about black holes today.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get there because what happens is when the star is we call a star alive while it's doing this nuclear fusion, but essentially you just run out of fuel, and depending on how you run out of fuel, you end up with different ways that the star dies. So there's sort of three things that could happen. One of them is you can get what's a stellar cinder, which is what we call a white dwarf. It's sort of literally like, you burn a fire and you sort of let it run, the fuel runs out, and then you're left over with like some hot coals at the end. So that we call that a white dwarf. So that's what's going to happen to our sun. It's going to leave behind a white dwarf. But when you get to massive stars, something like about 10 times the mass of our sun, then you end up with what's called a supernova explosion. This thing that makes everyone loves explosions. Well, hopefully not everyone.
Controlled explosions in safe environments that don't damage nature.
Yeah, everyone loves explosions far, far away in the universe. Let's put it that way. And supernova are sort of the most powerful cosmic explosions. So the massive star dies. It sort of first implodes under the force of gravity, and then you get a huge amount of energy releases that causes the star to explode. So that can leave behind either what's called a neutron star or a black hole, depending on how big the star is. And then there's sort of a third case, which is really, really massive stars, which they turn straight into black holes. I kind of think of it as a flump. So basically, you have so much gravity that the thing that would normally cause the star to explode in a supernova just isn't powerful enough. And so it sort of just goes like, I've got the star, it's burning, and then it just goes flump straight to a black hole.
Like from Star Trek, when the spaceship goes warp and it just thumps out of the area. The star just thumps into itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's really sad. Unless you like black holes, then this is a really good way to make them.
I mean, they are cool. We are made from the stuff that stars fuse together and then scattered out. Like, we're the heavier stuff, carbon, metals, oxygen, nitrogen, all these heavier things. How do they get scattered to the point where the sun, a star that hasn't fused these elements together yet and hasn't exploded and won't explode, can have them in their orbit?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so what happens is it turns out that when the massive stars die, they explode as a supernova. And so what they do is they make all of these elements through nuclear fusion inside of their cores. But if the star just dies and collapses and doesn't explode, then all of those things just collapse straight into the black hole. So they don't get out unless the star explodes. So everything that we're made out of is actually the result of these supernova explosions. Basically, you make all of the elements in the middle over the course of the star's life, and then you spew them out into the cosmos during one of these supernova explosions.
Knowing that we're comprised or made of star explosions makes me feel a lot better about having IBS, because explosions are a fundamental part of us.
Exactly. We would not be here without explosions.
And this is the kind of stuff you study on your day-to-day?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't look at the stars that are actually exploding, but what I do is sort of look at the star dust, right? So the explosions produce these heavy elements, and they make their way into different stars, like our sun. So what I mostly do is I go out and look at different stars inside of our Milky Way galaxy. I measured their composition. So I look to see how much carbon, how much nitrogen, how much oxygen, how much iron is inside of each star. And from that, we actually can sort of reconstruct the picture of how the stars, not the star that you're looking at exploded, but sort of the previous thing that exploded. It's kind of like different generations of stars. So the ones that I look at are the result of previous supernova explosions.
How do we know that these elements are out there? How do we know what stardust is made of?
Oh, it's crazy. So there's a thing called spectroscopy.
That's not what I need to go to my my proctologist for when I'm turned 40, is it?
Oh,
okay.
No, definitely. Hopefully not. Yeah.
That's colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy. Yeah. No, it's what we do is it's essentially like if you ever taken a prism, which is like a piece of glass, and held it up to the sun or really any light, you'll get like a rainbow of different colors, right?
Or listen to Pink Floyd.
Yeah, that's a beautiful illustration. So that's spectroscopy. You take light and then you split it up into its colors. And it turns out that as you look at those colors, you'll realize that depending on what the object you're splitting up the light of is made of, you'll actually see different chemical fingerprints. So like carbon will have a particular chemical fingerprint, oxygen will have a particular fingerprint that you can actually see inside of the light. So that's called spectroscopy. You can think of it as rainbow making, right? Basically, we take all of the light and we make a rainbow out of it. And then we look to see, in our case, how much light is missing. And based on where that is, we can measure the composition of different stars.
It's so cool that we can do that with elements here on Earth, and then we can see it from elements that are many, many, many thousands, millions of light years away and say, oh, that stuff over there is the same stuff that we have on Earth. Although the bands in the light shift, but we don't have time to discuss that.
Yeah.
Any interesting things you've come across when studying the death of stars that people don't know about or that's relatively new science?
Yeah, one of them that's sort of we recently found that's really exciting is we call it the Barbenheimer star because I was studying it the summer that the Barbie and Oppenheimer movies were coming out, and it seemed appropriate. And so this is a star which probably shouldn't have existed. We think what it shows is that it's the explosion of one of these really massive stars that we think normally would have turned into a black hole. And so in the process, what we saw is basically a bunch of elements that told us that whatever made those elements was a very, very massive star, sufficiently massive that it should have just sort of flumped into a black hole. But instead, we saw all of those elements plus a bunch of really other elements like iron, a huge amount of iron and manganese and nickel. And so we think that's a really rare explosion. Yeah.
Well, Alex, thanks for the lesson on how stars die and how the elements in our universe are made. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Great. Thanks so much, David.
Dr. Alexander G. is a cosmologist working at the University of Chicago. After the break, your listener calls. Wait for that number. It's coming up now.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Oh, such a clutch pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom, too. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Save up to 50% with minimum purchase at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The only talk show with an introduction that mentions its own introduction. And that's happening right now in this introduction. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Begging for a mention. Yeah, you just want attention.
I am here with special foreign correspondent Tony 5 in London, England. Our lines are open to any of you out there to join the show. The number is 4. I was about to give my personal number.
Yeah, give your number then, David. Well done. Call him up at home, everybody.
Uh-oh, they know the first digit of my number. It's 4.
4.
My anonymity is lost. The number is 1-888-505-6644. 44.
44?
Okay,
Or 44?
Look, English isn't my first language.
Obviously, neither is numbers.
Okay, it is my first language. On Thursday of last, we had a caller to the show, a young Gillian who seemed oddly normal.
Yep.
And we were really excited to talk to her because she was about to get married. She got married this last Saturday.
Literally a few days after we'd spoken to her, she held her nuptials, which isn't a euphemism.
Well, assuming that she didn't call the wedding off, but that's besides the point.
Well, we don't know yet, right?
Well, we Googled her over the weekend and we found her wedding registry. I know it's creepy. We did it, whatever. We went on the registry and on it, we found some curiously weird items and Tony and I actually bought one.
So we saw anything from a few dollars to like a few $100 towards their like honeymoon and stuff. And David, being the generous, socially adept and tech-savvy millionaire from San Francisco, decided to get the second cheapest item on the list.
All right, well, let's give her a ring. Tony, we're going to call Gillian in London. And no, it's not the London you're in.
It's the second best one.
Hello.
Hi, Gillian. It's David and Tony calling.
Hi. Yes, it is. Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
You called the show on Friday. You said you were, or maybe it was Thursday. Who knows?
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
It was a day.
It was a day. It was definitely a day.
Yep.
And you were to get married on, was it Sunday? Was it yesterday?
Saturday.
Great memory.
Upcoming nuptials.
How did the wedding go?
Oh my gosh, it was perfect. It was so good.
Wow.
Tell us about the day.
It was great. All of our close friends, everything just worked out. We did like pretty much everything ourselves. Like we catered it ourselves. We rented all the chairs ourselves. We brought everything. There was a tongs crisis where we didn't bring enough tongs at one point, but I didn't notice any of that the day of. I didn't have to do any work that day.
Oh.
Everyone was on time.
Wow. The Tong crisis sounds a lot like the Cuban Missile Crisis that happened in the U.S. when the USSR was hiding nukes in Cuba. I mean, that's a serious crisis.
It was, oh my gosh, how would people be able to grab sandwiches off the table if not for all of these tongs? But everything worked out. It was perfect.
And the weather? What was the weather like?
Oh my gosh, it was 24 and some clouds. It was like no wind. It was perfect.
And remind me the location?
Not far off the Thames.
Oh yeah, you're London, aren't you?
Yes.
But not the good one.
No, it's not as
Oh.
I will say the one funny thing was that I'm walking down the aisle. Andrew and I didn't do a first look. I just decided to walk down and he's crying.
Aww.
And I panicked because it didn't seem like a happy cry.
Did he step on something? What happened?
I didn't. I honestly thought he was going to leave. I was like, we talked about this. I said, if you don't want to do it, please tell me before. Just text me. And that's okay. It's okay. But oh my gosh, I walked up the whole time, and like everyone said I looked panicked, and I was literally panicking. But then he reached out and took my hand, and he gave me the look like it's all good, don't worry about it, like I'm happy crying. But oh my gosh, I had a moment.
What a sweet wife you are. You were like, you gave him a chance to back out of it. If I had said that to my ex-wife before our wedding, she would have smacked me.
Absolutely. That's a level of confidence that you have.
I didn't want to be tilted. I said, it's okay. But oh my gosh, I panicked. But it was okay. It worked out. He was very happy afterwards. Everything was perfect. I only threw up a few times the next morning. It was great.
You're a computer nerd, so log on to your router, or as they say in the UK, your router, and block all Google searches for annulment so we can trap this guy and not let him out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so did you receive anything?
Did you notice anything on your wedding registry that got purchased, Gillian?
I have not checked. Should I be checking?
I think you should check, yes, because your two least favorite radio hosts may have bought you a wedding present.
No way.
Yeah, Gillian. So, firstly, let us apologize. We kind of little bit cyber stalked you.
No, that's...
And then we found your wedding list, which was publicly available online, so we didn't do anything bad.
Yes.
And David and I had a top level powwow, which is basically we were talking whilst we were on the toilet.
Yeah.
And David said, Tony, do you think we should get her something on the wedding list? And I said, David, she was lovely. She's the first caller we've had that isn't clinically insane or incarcerated. So, let's do it. And he did. And we did. And it said...
No way.
Yeah, we did. 100%.
First, we wanted to sort by the cheapest thing, and there was some sort of basting brush, some sort of kitchen brush.
Yeah, basting brush.
It was like $4, and we were going to get that for you. But then we looked a little bit deeper. We added a few more dollars to it, and we found a black matte toilet brush.
That was you?
That was us! So now every time you clean your toilet, we hope that you think of us.
No way.
Last show with David Cooper, sponsored by that toilet brush. Now, if that doesn't fill every listener out there with a warm and fuzzy feeling, I don't know what does, David.
That's not what that feeling is, Tony.
Gillian, what do you think? You got a present from essentially two not very minor celebrities.
I know. I almost don't want to tell people when they come in, just in case. I don't want anyone to nick it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Good use of British slang, too.
Good use of British slang there, Nick, yeah.
Maybe the next time after people come over.
We should have gotten it engraved. We didn't want to spend the money, I guess. Well, anyway, we want you to enjoy your new toilet brush that was purchased off your registry, kindly.
David, not just her, but her joyful husband as well.
Yes.
Remember, they're a twosome now.
They are a twosome, and just make sure you block all Google searches for annulment. We got to trap this guy. We want to trap him in the house with the toilet brush.
Yes. Yeah, because you never know. I think I've got him locked down now, but I had a moment.
Well, would you mind if we kept in touch?
Of course.
And find out how the marriage is going and essentially how the toilet brush is going?
Yes, of course. I'll make sure to, to try it out soon.
Oot.
Usually after I listen to your show anyway, I usually have to go to the bathroom, so it'll be perfect.
Well, Gillian in London, we congratulate you on your marriage. We congratulate you on your new black toilet brush. And thanks for listening to the show. We'll keep following up with you and annoying you until you can't stand it anymore.
Oh, thank you. Please do.
You take care, Gillian. And like everybody says, once you go back, you never go back. And that counts with toilet brushes too.
Thank you so much.
All right, there they go. Caller Gillian and Tony 5 in London, England, who joins us every night for better or worse. Now might be a good time to tell you that the last show is available as a podcast. If you like what you heard, but you didn't catch the whole program, or you're going to miss a given night, fear not. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com. And there you can find out more details about our podcast, including how to subscribe. So please do. Although I can't force you. I'm not your mother. That is a wrap on tonight's program. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to be a part of the show, give us a call. The number is 1-888-505-6644. That's 1-888-505-6644. If we don't pick up, leave a message. We'll play it on the show, or maybe call you back, though no promises. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. We'll be back tomorrow night. Cheers.
Well, you've heard me on the radio and you've listened to my podcast. Well, now you can watch me on YouTube for thought-provoking conversation, fearless interviews that you won't get anywhere else. The Ben Mulroney Show every single day. So go to YouTube, subscribe to The Ben Mulroney Show, and never miss an episode.